Hey, nerdy sports fan, and this is the post-game video for 49ers taking on the Green Bay Packers. And this was nowhere near the game it should have been. Two really big factors in this game that were constant. Brian Bulaga going out with an early injury meant that the passing game for the Packers was severely disrupted. Aaron Rodgers does really well extending plays. He's extremely good after 3 seconds. Chris Collinsworth noted it multiple times the uh, during the game, but that didn't happen. He never got to that 3 second mark. His right tackle was just I don't know, a revolving door. It didn't matter who lined up over the right tackle. Most of the time it was Armstead. They got to the quarterback. They got pressure. Rodgers was always on the run. And they needed their defense to step up big. That didn't happen. Their defense, the other constant, could not stop George Kittle. They were very good on third down for most of the game until the end, where they just got tired from being on the field all game. And San Francisco was finally able to run the ball on them extremely well. For the most part, they held up well. I mean, if you're talking about through the first 2.5 quarters of play, the defense actually did pretty well for the Packers. Just their offense could not get a single thing going. They would have the periodic good run from Aaron Jones or, a nice pass play, but it wasn't anything that was strung together with any sort of consistency. And that's what this defense does to people. San Francisco's defense is the best front four in football, and they lost Dee Ford to injury. So, yeah, imagine what they would be like with him in the lineup right now. Just nobody really stands a chance against this defensive front. Do they miss Quan Alexander? I'm sure. But as long as they have Fred Warner, the linebacking core is stout. The defensive secondary is extremely, extremely good. Jimmy Ward on the back end and Richard Sherman at corner really keep that secondary stable. And they play a scheme that's taken right from the Seattle Legion of Boom. So it's a good defensive scheme. It's something that Sherman knows extremely well and has been able to articulate to the rest of the team exactly what they need to do with it. Remembering anything from that Seattle team, the defensive front mattered a lot, and it was very multiple. And that's exactly what they have with the 49ers right now. The similarities don't end there. They're very, very focused on the run. Now, mind you, it's from a few different running backs instead of the Seattle team, which leaned heavily on Marshawn Lynch. But they're very run focused, and that allows the passing game to open up very easily. Jimmy G is not Aaron Rodgers. I get it, but he doesn't have to be. He's got a better offensive line and a better play calling, maybe. I don't want to say that. It's really the same kind of offensive style that they're trying to run. Just Green Bay does not have the offensive line for it right now. And very obviously, the 49ers do. Now, I talk about this often in my videos. Offensive and defensive line play means so much in this league. Everything flows from that. If you have a strong offensive line, you can run the ball at will. When you can run the ball at will, at least get 2-3 yards whenever you want. That changes things. It changes how the defense has to play you. They have to attack more, and you get them off balance. Play action pass opens things up really, really well, and you saw that happen in this game. Play action passing was the key to getting George Kittle. I mean, how does he get so open on a 65-yard touchdown play? Well, I'll tell you how. The entire offensive line pushing off to the left, all the run action going on at the offensive line level, all the receivers, everything moving off to the left. George Kittle running what seems to be like just a banana route off to the left. And everybody's breaking on the run action, and he just turns off to the right against the grain, and nobody's there. The person that was covering him, eyes in the backfield, running along with him, but eyes in the backfield. And as soon as he bent the other direction, game over. Jimmy G just had to throw to a spot. And yeah, this is what he missed. You know, with George Kittle out and Emmanuel Sanders out, they looked mortal. Kittle's back. And Deebo Samuel's playing much, much better than he was at the beginning of the season. So they're far less vulnerable now. That offense can stay consistent. And as long as the offense can stay consistent, this defense will win games for them. They'll just attack all day. And they can do it. They don't need to blitz. Okay? They can, but they don't need to. They can just throw really exotic coverages out there and confuse the living hell out of a quarterback and make it take real time to find an opening. And as long as they do that on the back end consistently, which they've been able to do all season, their front four will get home. They just will. You're not going to stop this front four for more than 3 seconds. Ever. Just ever. Nobody has the offensive line capable of doing that to this unit. So, yeah, the offensive troubles from Green Bay start and end at the right tackle. As soon as Brian Bulaga went out, nobody could stand up anybody on that side. And not only does Aaron Rodgers never get to the 3-second mark, he rarely got to the 2-second mark. I mean, there was pressure in his face immediately from Armstead, from Bosa, from just anybody that lined up over right tackle. DeForest Buckner got involved a few times. They just had pressure from everywhere. It didn't matter. So this coaching tree got highlighted a lot in this game, and it's going to continue. I mean, we were talking about it being a Sean McVay coaching tree. It's really a Mike Shanahan coaching tree. Mike Shanahan's version of the West Coast offense is this run-heavy, run-action offense. And there's a lot of different variations of it being run in the league. The best one is in San Francisco. Weird how Kyle Shanahan runs the best version of Mike Shanahan's system. But they're doing that in Minnesota too. Minnesota, where Gary Kubiak is, the lead man for the offense, played backup quarterback for Denver behind Elway under who? Oh, Mike Shanahan. Yeah. So all of the people that come off of that coaching tree, Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur, both come from that coaching tree. And they're trying to implement those offenses. And you see what happens to the teams that they left. Not really a worry for, the team that Sean McVay left, obviously. But LaFleur spent some time in Tennessee. Their offense looked a lot better when he was there. A lot better. And now that he's running the show in Packerland, Tennessee's stumbling quite a bit. I mean, these guys make a big, big difference. And there's, nobody's reinventing the wheel here. Okay? This system is very, very straightforward. You run the ball. You run the ball. You run the ball constantly. They flashed a stat on the bottom of the screen at one point where the 49ers run the ball 51% of the time. They are the only team in the league that runs the ball more than half the time. Go back 3, 4, 5 years in the league. Everybody was so ridiculously pass happy. It's insane. Everybody wanted to be Peyton Manning. Until Peyton Manning got his ass whooped in Seattle. Then they realized, oh, weird, defense and running game matters. Right. Because not everybody's Peyton Manning. Okay? Not everybody has that supercomputer brain that's going to break things down and set the defense up like a damn chess computer. Nobody has that capability. And people tried to duplicate it. You had Drew Brees, you had Aaron Rodgers, you had Tom Brady putting up gaudy numbers. But it didn't necessarily produce wins with consistency, especially in the postseason. You saw Peyton Manning get his ass whooped by Seattle. You saw Tom Brady get lumped up on by the Giants. And those teams that lumped up on them ran the ball and played very aggressive defense that could generate pressure with the front four only. That is the consistent thread for winning football in the past 20 or so years. You need to generate pressure with the front four by themselves. No blitzing. You need to run the ball extremely well so you can create play action passing, keep the defense rested, but give yourself the opportunity to pop on a big play now and again. It's a very simple formula. They've been doing it for years, and it always wins. Always. So, I don't understand why more people don't buy into this sort of thing. There are a handful of teams that are trying to build defense first and create this running game sort of situation. A lot of teams are just further ahead than others. You see, like the Bills are trying to build that right now in their culture. The Ravens already have it. The 49ers already have it. And those two teams, by the way, at this point are my Super Bowl pick. Nobody else can hang with them. Just nobody else. Seattle has a shot. They play offense and defense that exact same way. And Russell Wilson throws on a Superman cape now and again and just wins a game by himself. But yeah, in Baltimore, you got Lamar Jackson who can do that too. The team that doesn't necessarily have a guy who can throw on a Superman cape is San Francisco. So we'll see how it plays out in the postseason. We'll see how the next few weeks play out. San Francisco has an extremely, extremely tough remaining schedule. Next few weeks are going to really show us what this team is. Obviously, they just lumped up on the Packers. Well, next week they have the Ravens. And the week after that, they have the Saints. Teams that are also doing extremely, extremely well this late in the season. And quite healthy, by the way. So, assuming those teams stay healthy, we're going to get a really good look at what San Francisco is. I don't think Jimmy G is the guy in the way Russell Wilson is the guy, in the way that Lamar Jackson is the guy. And I'm not necessarily sure he can be. He doesn't have the running dynamic in his game. He has to do it all from the pocket. And that makes him a little more dependent on the positions around him than Lamar Jackson or Russell Wilson would be. So he can't go hero mode in the way they can. But his team is definitely better constructed than the other two, especially on defense. The defense backing up San Francisco is truly one of the best defenses I've had the pleasure of watching, at least since Ray Lewis retired. And we'll see how far it can take them. An extremely, extremely good defense wins Super Bowls very regularly. Denver had the best defense in the league when they won the Super Bowl. Baltimore rode their defense to their Super Bowl. The Giants rode their defense to 2. And say all you want about Tom Brady, but the Patriots win because of their defense. That's what happened against Atlanta, and that's what happened against the Rams. So defense, especially defense played on this level, always wins. I'm very interested to see what happens next week and the week after, because both Baltimore and New Orleans also have extremely good defenses. But I would have said that about Green Bay as well. So their defense will stop the opposing team's offense. It's a matter of if San Francisco's offense can deal with the opposing team's defense. And this week they definitely handled that situation. So George Kittle being healthy again is huge here. Their offensive linemen that were injured earlier in the season that are now playing just fine, huge. Let's see if they stay healthy. And I think they can do some real damage come playoff time. I am saying right now that for San Francisco, the way they're playing right now, anything less than getting to the Super Bowl will be a disappointment. And for many, especially San Francisco fans, anything less than winning the Super Bowl will be a disappointment. Kyle Shanahan has cemented himself, locked himself in position as the head coach for probably a good decade. But this definitely is a window that he needs to work well in. He's got a couple of years, this year, next year, where he can guarantee that this team, for the most part, will stay together. He needs to do the most he can right now. Super Bowl this year, Super Bowl next year. See what the front office can do then to maintain this defensive play, to maintain what they have on offense, which is a fantastic running game. But right now, they know they have it. So they better make the most of it. They need to win now. They're not the only team that's in win now mode, though. Not the only good one. The Saints and the Ravens definitely come to mind. And let's not forget about Tom Brady and the Patriots. Personally, out of these 4 teams that I'm talking about, I do actually think the Patriots are the weakest. They've just had an extremely, extremely favorable schedule. And when you see them against really quality teams, the game is either much closer than you would expect it to, or they lost. And that's not the case right now with San Francisco. And that's not the case with Baltimore. Baltimore handled New England. And San Francisco just handled the Packers, an 8-2 team. When I see the Patriots handle a team with only 2 losses this late in the season, then I'm sold, sure. But they haven't had to do that to this point. So yeah, for my money, San Francisco's the best team in the league. Baltimore's a close second. Saints are third. I might even put Seattle or Minnesota ahead of the Patriots at this point, simply because of strength of schedule. The power is definitely in the NFC right now. Whoever comes out of the NFC, I'm calling to win the Super Bowl. But, Baltimore is going to be a real tough out. Really, really tough out. This year is going to be very fun to watch the playoffs, very fun to watch the Super Bowl, because I'm honestly anticipating that Tom Brady won't be in the Super Bowl again. This is his best chance, but they're going to run into a buzzsaw in Baltimore, and I don't think they can handle it. Baltimore's already proven that they can just beat the living hell out of New England. And the rest of their schedule makes it so New England's likely to have the better record. So this time Baltimore's going to have to do it in New England come playoff time. That'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting. New England has an extremely good home record, especially in the playoffs and late season when the weather's bad. Baltimore's not a team that you're going to have to worry about the weather, though. It's not exactly like they play hundreds of miles south of New England. A bit south, but they're not in Miami. Okay, they know how to play in the snow. Yeah, that's going to be interesting because it's really just Baltimore and New England in the AFC. But in the NFC, this game aside, the Packers are still dangerous. You have the Packers, you have Minnesota, you have the Saints, you have the 49ers, you have the Seahawks. So there's at least 5 right there. And I'm sure you could pepper in 1 or 2 more teams that are at the very least dangerous, like the Cowboys or the Eagles. So it's going to be a much, much more difficult route for whoever comes out of the NFC to get to the playoffs than whoever comes out of the AFC. There are dangerous teams like the Chiefs, but the really dominant teams, there's only 2. There's Baltimore and New England. And again, New England, very much a paper tiger at this point because their strength of schedule, it just isn't there. They've been playing chumps. So I'm putting them in that category knowing their body of work. Tom Brady is Tom Brady still. Bill Belichick is still Bill Belichick. But we don't necessarily know as much about New England going up against extremely, extremely quality teams as we know San Francisco. Because they've had to play Seattle. They had to play Green Bay. And they're about to play Baltimore and the Saints. All of those teams are fan-frickin-tastic. And if San Francisco can run through Baltimore and the Saints late in the season, as long as they stay healthy, they're gold to win the Super Bowl. They're just... There's only a few questions left to answer. They're slowly answering all of them. The defense is epic. The running game, you can do it at will. Got it. Can you pass the ball when the opposing defense takes away the running game? Well, today they could. Today, between George Kittle and Deebo Samuel, they got the pass plays when they needed them. Does that hold through the season? Does that hold through the postseason? We'll see. But honestly, it seems like this team is just getting better as the season goes on. So it's going to be fun to watch the rest of the year, but I'm already anxious for the playoffs because if right now the late season play is any indication, we're going to have a lot to talk about come playoff time. Check out my pregame videos, which are going to be airing in a few days to really help your fantasy team. I made a couple of suggestions this week for running back pickups in Scarborough and Williams that actually did pretty damn well. So there's not always new flavor of the week kind of ads that you can do. But check out the pregame videos to make sure you're not missing the flavor of the week ads that you need to pick up late in the year for your fantasy football playoff runs and winning in the playoffs. Late season ads matter because everybody gets hurt. What you do managing those injuries is the difference between winning and losing in the fantasy football playoffs. I should know. I win a third of the time I enter a league. So, yeah, hit me up in the comments. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. And check out the pregame videos coming out on Wednesday.